Is Krishna. So I'm taking a class after a long time. So in this video we will see some of the important questions for the Telangana mhsrb examination. So we know that the exam will be on August August 2nd. Okay, so we need to prepare as much as possible. So in this exam we are going to write the 80 questions and 80 minutes. So we need to achieve each question for a 1 minute. So like that we have to prepare as well, and also time management is very important. And anyhow, let's continue the topic. So the first question is, which of these signs indicate tracheoesophageal fistula immediately after birth? So after birth of the baby, which sign can indicate tracheoesophageal fistula? Options are passage of meconium, continuous drooling, slow response to stimuli, diaphragmatic breathing. So passage of meconium will be come from the anus. Okay. So is it the sign of tracheoesophageal fistula? No. And the next one is a slow response to stimulus. So this is indicate for the cranium. Central nervous system. Okay. So it is not related to the esophageal fistula. And the next one is a diaphragmatic breathing. So this is also not related to esophageal fistula. Why? Because diaphragmatic breathing can be present when the child is in the uh, unable to take more breath. So diaphragmatic breathing can leads to the taking of more breathing. So that is like a diaphragmatic breathing. It is nothing but abdominal breathing. So finally we have the right one. Right one is continuous drooling. Why? Because there is a gap, okay, esophagus and trachea. So there is a gap or something, or okay, so there is a discontinuation of the esophagus. So what will happen, whatever the saliva is produced in the mouth, it will not go into the stomach. So in the same way the saliva will be coming out of the mouth, that is continuous drooling of saliva. So by seeing this feature we can understand the child may have the tracheoesophageal fistula related abnormalities. So the next question is, the most common type of meningitis seen in children less than 5 years. So children less than 5 years, which type of meningitis we commonly seen? Options are idiopathic, aseptic, bacterial and tuberculosis meningitis. So which one is the right answer? So most commonly the children are highly risk for the infection of bacteria. Okay, so we can go for the option C, bacterial meningitis. It is the most common type of meningitis seen in the children. That is option C is the right answer. So the next question is, the most commonly used shunt in hydrocephalus management. So child having hydrocephalus. So hydrocephalus is nothing but increasing of cerebrospinal fluid. So what will happen here? So we need to remove the excessive cerebrospinal fluid by the shunt. Shunt is nothing but connection from the cerebrum, ventricles of the cerebrum brain and to the other organs. So the fluid will come from the brain and it will goes to the other organs. So the extra fluid will be excretes through the urine. Okay, so this is the method of shunt. Okay, so what is the most commonly shunt used in case of hydrocephalus management? So the options are ventriculoatrial So ventriculoatrial is nothing but, in the brain we have the ventricles. Okay, so we need to have the collection from the, okay, so in the brain's ventricles are present. So this is the brain, and here we have the ventricles, and so this CSF is from the produced from the coracoid plexus epithelium, which is present in the ventricles. Okay, so this is maybe the brain, and here we have the ventricles. So in the coracoid plexus, the CSF will be produced. So due to the increasing of CSF fluid around the brain, what will happen? It will show the effect on the brain function. So in this case, we have to remove the extra fluid from the ventricles to, okay, so this shunt, otherwise nothing but it is a tube connection between the ventricles and other organ. So the first option is a ventriculoatrial. So this is ventricle and atria will be present in the heart. Okay, so this is called a ventriculoatrial shunt. So the next point is the ventriculoperitoneal. So in the same way, this shunt, otherwise tube, so which is coming from the ventricles of the brain and connected to the peritoneum. So peritoneum will be present in the abdomen. So this is the option B. Next option C is the ventriculopericardial. So ventriculopericardial is nothing but it's just same like a shunt from the ventricles, which is present in the brain and connected to the surrounding cover layer of the heart. This is pericardium. Okay, so in this pericardium also we have the some amount of fluid. Okay, so this connection from the ventricles to pericardial, and finally ventricular pleural. So the same way the shunt is from the ventricles to lungs. Okay, so these are the lungs. The pleural cavity will be covered by the lungs. So the connection from the ventricles to lungs. So which is the most common method and safe method in the case of hydrocephalus management in the children? So the right option is the option B, ventriculoperitoneal. So ventricular to peritoneum. So peritoneum is present in the abdomen and it has the cavity, peritoneal cavity. So it is completely made with the adipose tissue. So this is the right option. Option B is the ventriculoperitoneal shunt in the case of hydrocephalus management.